Another day, another unmarked location video. My name is Dr. Wasabi. One of the most recent additions to the Fallout game map is of course Skyline Valley. This crimson vista is swamped with untold stories and environmental nuggets for us to find. In today's video, we will be seeing how many unmarked locations we can find in this stormy landscape. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Our first location sits wedged between the Stoltz's Grand Dark Hollow Manor and the Shenandoah Visitor Center. Now for our first location, we will need to fast travel to the Dark Hollow Manor at the center of Skyline Valley. Fast traveling outside the Grand Manor, we will need to head north to northeastwards up the hilly terrain. Now folks, the center of the storm is really gloomy, but the gloom seems to lift as we exit the center of the storm, revealing a huge landslide. From initial observation, it seems that either the storm or the Great Wall has absolutely shattered the landscape. Whole sections of the valley, especially the visitor center, has just segmented and slid down the landscape. Now looking at the foliage, we can see that the trees stand diagonal, forming a row of thorns all pointing to Dark Hollow Manor. Moving past this, we can find various debris of cars and structures that must have been from the edge of the visitor center and fallen down. Now jumping up the rock face and going alongside the cliff, we can find a Nuka World bus. The bus stands wedged against the side of the rock face, decaled with that unmistakable Nuka World signage. Now upon research, this seems to be the only one of its kind in the entire region, or at least any that I have found. If you guys have found any more Nuka World buses, please let me know. Investigating the wreckage, we can make out several skeletons, implying that they likely died where they stood. Now this makes out that this was indeed an event of the Great War. Maybe the countless atomic detonations just melted the beneath of the landscape, causing huge swaths of the valley to basically slide down with their entire foliage intact. Either way, that is cold comfort for these poor people as we investigate the interior. Going to the rear of the bus, we can find a lady holding a lunch pail, and if we look at the driver's seat, a bony hand stands in a death grip against the bar of the interior, swallowed by mud and rock. It seems that this bus may have been standing on the far edge of the visitor center. The entire ground that it was standing on must have given way, causing it to slide alongside the entire shelf of the cliff. Now of course, this explains why the bus is wedged rather than obliterated at the bottom of the rock face beneath the visitor center. This is a wonderful reference to the Fallout 4 DLC Nuka World, though unfortunately there is no Nuka Cola to be found. Well, maybe someone should go tell the folks at Nuka World on tour, and maybe they can go retrieve it. Maybe someone should tell the folks at Nuka World on tour, maybe they can add it to their long circus roster. Who knows, though safe to say these bystanders aren't arriving at Nuka World anytime soon. For our next location, we will need to follow the road west of the Shenandoah Visitor Center. Fast traveling there, we can make the trek down the roadside. Along the way, we find a few bits of note, some Blue Ridge caravan checkpoints dotted along the roadside, a whole piece of the road just gone, slidden down into the rock face, and some bits of beer left eons ago by pre-war hikers. Walking enough ways down the road, we meet a T-junction, the right of which leading to the looming Hawksbill weather station. We will need to head leftwards, stopping at this caravan parked at the side of the road. Now, strangely enough, we will need to beeline directly off the cliff for our next unmarked location. Walking carefully off the cliff face in a straight line, we can make our way down the mountain. We don't find much amongst the bushes, but we do find a white painted piece of wood poking out behind a rock. Investigating closer, it seems we found a gardener's shack. Now this structure has seemingly smashed into a tree, caused likely by the same environmental disturbances that caused the landslides at the visitor center. Now the contents of the shed have spilled open, revealing a weed whacker, a lawnmower, and various bits of junk that have just been atomized by the rubble. Now the tree the shack slammed into seemed to be part of a tire swing set used by the local youth. We can only hope that one of these kids wasn't absolutely atomized by this falling structure. Other than that, there isn't really anything much of note, folks, other than a few wood logs for scrap and the glow of the storm. Now, theory crafting, folks, it is very likely that this is one of the last structures untouched by the Stoltz family during their acquisition, quote unquote, of the Dark Hollow community. This entire community has been bulldozed to construct their lavish manor, a manor steeped in a shattered landscape. Walking away from this shack, it gives me some solace that some defiance has lasted this long to one Vault-Tec executive. Now, next, folks, this unmarked location is something I like to call the Patriots' last drink. For this location, we will need to trek back to the caravan mentioned earlier just before we headed off the cliff towards the gardener's shack. Once climbing up, we need only walk a short distance until we find this little pit stop along the Skyline Drive. Investigating the scene, a porta-john sits tipped over. Opening it, we can find, strangely enough, an axe, a pillow, and some food supplies. Moving forward, we can see a dirt bike, and alongside the edge of the road, those neat little observation pods that we can see alongside the Skyline Drive as a whole. Alongside that, there is nothing really of note until we walk up to this truck. It seems one driver has draped his truck in pre-war American flags. His license plate reads Freedom and Liberty as he chugs a few beers. His skeleton sits on a fold-up chair beside a case of empty bottles and a duffel bag. Now, the story here is very clear. This patriot, either during or just after the war, decided to enter the apocalypse on a buzz, and soon succumbed to the elements and radiation of the warheads landing nearby. Now, saying this, I'm somewhat surprised this guy hasn't been dragged off by wildlife and his skeleton is preserved 25 years later. Maybe the flag of the Republic is serving his skeleton 25 years after his life has ended. We can only hope. Now, this next unmarked location is something I like to call the Sniper's Roost. Fast traveling to research site Saxony, we will need to head due west, making sure to take care of these disgusting super mutants first. Once dispatched, we can head on our way, finding a treehouse on our path westwards. Now, originally I was excited to see what was in here, but it seems that this structure is deserted of story, which in my opinion is a great shame because it just sits here begging you to come inside, but it really has nothing inside. Moving past the treehouse, we need to trudge through until we reach the clearing on a muddy plain. Looking around, we can see a huge rock face undisturbed by both the Great War and the storm. The red glow of Skyline Valley is practically disappearing as we walk up the hill. If we walk further enough, we can find the world's edge. Heading southwards along the fence, we can sort of shimmy and jump up the rock face until we find a campsite. Investigating the scene, this place is deserted, but it is clear that someone has recently been here. A banjo sits idly on a chair as a tent sits erected beside it. And walking up to the cliff's edge, we can find a sniper's roost. Now, a marksman's rifle sits idly alongside a pair of binoculars, and some static bullets are placed alongside a cross of 5 that is tallied using chalk next to the whole display. Now, looking in the direction of the whole display, we can find that the only location we can discern is the super mutant infested grindstone arch. Now, this guy or gal must be one heck of a shot to make it that far, though any super mutants removed is a brownie point added in my humble opinion. Honestly, folks, I have no idea what the deeper story is here, but if you guys do know what this maybe be referencing, please comment down below. Our next unmarked location is a rather sweet treat indeed. Fast traveling to the Stony Man lookout, we need to head northwards around the lookout, making sure not to attract too much attention. Making our way down the hill, we can find a large natural parking spot, one that is guarded by 2 anglers. Let's take them out. Dispatching these angling brutes, we can inspect the parking garage, revealing a wholly unique and intact Nuka-Cola commercial truck. This model is solely unique to this location, and it even seems the signage is different as well. In the car park we can find some wrecked vehicles, though nothing really of note, just bags of garbage and a tipped over porta-john. Moving closer and inspecting the truck, this vehicle is strangely enough not a Corvega, registering an M on the front of its car bonnet. Very strange indeed. Now this just fascinates me folks. As for myself, I think this may be a vintage Nuka-Cola truck being used for bespoke sales. Now this truck has seemingly been in the valley for a while, judging from its wheels, as so much so in our timeline as say old Coca-Cola trucks and glass bottles being used in much the same niche way. Now Nuka-Cola is a very old company being established in 2044 and maybe a few years earlier, so it begs one to consider that this may be a vintage Nuka-Cola truck being used maybe for independent sales. Though Lord only knows why this thing is still standing if that is the case. Given what Nuka-Cola did to companies like Vim, Soda in Far Harbor, it is a blessing that this thing is standing at all. Saying that, I am not complaining. This is a fantastic vintage model and a real treat for any explorer. Now our last unmarked location may be our most mysterious on this list, one being called the cabin. Fast traveling to milepost 0, we will need to head westwards along the lush greenery, walking far enough until we are behind the old gasworks nearby milepost 0. Heading into the brush southwards, we can find a mysterious and boarded up cabin. Investigating closer, we can find that this building is entirely desolate and boarded up, with a mysterious lone tame dog milling around. No mongrels here folks, though to my shock this cabin has a habit for danger, so watch out for any randomly generated high level fauna, like this Deathclaw here. Yeah, this guy came out of nowhere. It did make me jump a little. This cabin utterly perplexes me because it is so random and reads like a creepypasta, you know, the old abandoned cabin behind the gasworks. And the tame dog only adds a layer to this mystery. If you guys have any ideas about what this is, then please let me know, but for now, we'll leave this home to its seemingly canine owner. And there we have it folks, another 6 unmarked locations, this time in Skyline Valley. Honestly, I have such a blast making these folks, so if you can, please like this video and subscribe. My name has been Dr. Wasabi. I bid you a most pleasant good morning, good evening, or good night, and of course, as always, God bless. And I'll see you in the wasteland.